There he is. There's our boy. I think my face cam's covered him up a little bit, but there he is. Now he's in the shot. Looking a little bit more angular than I think he actually did on the PS1. I don't think it's a perfect recreation of his model. I think they kind of over dramatized it a little bit to make the glow up a little bit more impressive. But anyway, here we are, guys. Welcome to my playthrough of Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back, another one of my favorite games of all time. So yeah, obviously we're playing the Insane Trilogy remaster, remake, I guess. Remake, remaster, I tend to use the words interchangeably, but a lot of people apparently get really offended about that. But this is a remake, I believe, because it's built completely from the ground up and doesn't use any of the old assets from the original version. So yeah, I think that means it's a remake and not a remaster. Don't murder me in the comments if I'm wrong about that, but I think that's the difference. But anyway, we will start a new file. But yeah, if you watched my Super Mario 64 playthrough, then you'll know I mentioned that I hold this game and Mario 64 in equally high regard. I truly don't know which game that I would choose between the two of them. If you held a gun to my head and said, choose which one you like better, Mario 64 or Crash Bandicoot 2, I'd probably be dead, because these are both these games are my babies that I birthed myself from my loins. Don't ask how that works. But yeah, they're both 3D platformers. They're very different, though. Mario 64 is kind of more open-ended. It's a sandbox style collectathon 3D platformer where you can kind of more or less go wherever you want. It's a little bit more open world, so to speak. Whereas this is more linear. You're just kind of going from point A to point B through what's essentially each level is kind of a series of corridors, But yeah, both really great games. And just because this one's more linear than Mario 64 doesn't mean that it's inherently worse. I don't think, at least not in my opinion, because the level design is very tight. The controls are really good. They're just different 3D platformers. So yeah, and I'm playing this on the PS5. This is the PS4 version of the game, which seems to be looking pretty good on my recording footage here, but should be recording at 4K. I don't know. I think the game just runs at 30 frames per second anyway, so I'm not sure if this capture card can even do 4K 60 or not. But yeah, so hopefully it's a pretty sharp image, and I've got all the settings configured correctly, and it is recording at the highest fidelity possible. But yeah, and also my lighting is better, you may have noticed, compared to my Mario 64 playthrough where the lighting was just pretty atrocious on that, not gonna lie. I've got some new high-tech, state-of-the-art lighting in place here, and by that I mean I screwed in another light bulb because one of my lights was blown. But yeah, it might be a little bit too much light now, I'm not sure. So just let me know if if it's a little too bright now. I think I might need to dim it just a little bit. I'm not sure, but I'll kind of experiment with it. There's our villain, Dr. Neo Cortex, and in the original trilogy back on the PS1, he was actually voiced by Clancy Brown, who most people probably know as the voice of Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob. Get back to work, me boy. But yeah, they replaced his actor in the games after that. I don't know the name of the guy who does the voice of Cortex now. He still does a really good job. I kind of wish they brought the original guy back for the remasters, though, since he did do it back in the day. The new voice actor for Cortex is a lot more comical, like kind of a more lighthearted villain, whereas the original voice of Dr. Cortex from back in the day, Clancy Brown, he sounded much more intimidating. Like it was a much more threatening sounding voice. So I don't know. They're both great in their own way, but it would have been kind of nice if they brought back the original. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started here. We've got 5 levels in each world to choose from. We can tackle those in any order we want to. And I guess we'll just, this is the first one chronologically, so let's just go into this, Turtle Woods. But yeah, hopefully the audio sounds good and everything, and the game looks good. This is my first time capturing PS5 footage on my capture card. But yeah, like I said, I absolutely adore the Crash Bandicoot series. Crash 2 in particular is my favorite. Crash 1, I might play through that game at some point. I do enjoy it. It's better with the remake. But the original version in particular is honestly does not hold up super well. I would say in some ways it's a little, maybe even a little mediocre. But Crash 2, they really had a chance to learn, not just from the first game, but also other 3D platformers that were coming out at the time, like Mario 64. Whereas when this game, or when Crash 1 came out, I mean, they really didn't have a frame of reference because it was, among the first, 3D platformers to come out. It was in development alongside of, Mario 64 when that game was being developed. And I'm sure Nintendo was very, very secretive as they were working on that game before it actually released, so they really didn't have anything to go off of. But Naughty Dog, the developers of the game originally, is a very small team of people. So yeah, it's understandable why the first Crash Bandicoot game maybe doesn't hold up super well. There's a lot of people out there who say Crash 3 is their favorite. Not me. I kind of think Crash 3 gets a little too gimmicky. You've got a lot of like vehicle levels where it's like, oh, now you're underwater, and then like now you're on a motorcycle, and just a lot of different things like that. Whereas Crash 2, I feel like really just kind of refines the core platforming gameplay that was kind of lacking in the first game and just polishes that up. Because at the end of the day, when I'm playing a 3D platformer, I just want to be platforming. I just want to be running around, jumping, and having a good time doing that. Collecting some collectibles along the way. I don't need a bunch of other bells and whistles. But back in kind of the late 90s, early 2000s, it was popular to, have extra stuff to put on the box. Crashes you've never seen him before. Now he can, do all this other crazy stuff, and sometimes less is more. I think the game can kind of lose focus when it gets a little too carried away with the gimmicks. You also have a lot of upgradable abilities you get in Crash 3. You can get like a double jump and this kind of spin hover move that lets you stay in the air for longer periods of time. You get a freaking bazooka by the end of the game, and I don't know, I think that's a little overkill. To me, it kind of breaks the game and makes it a little too easy. I feel like some of the levels, I guess, are kind of built with that in mind in some parts, but on the whole, I just think it kind of takes away from the challenge of the core platforming, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan. Oh, we got if you get 3 of these masks here, you get temporarily invincible. I was trying to clear that gap. Kind of essentially the same as like grabbing a star in Mario. But yeah, I've lost my train of thought here where I was explaining the invincibility. There we go. I was able to clear that one. You can so like, you can do kind of a crouch and jump for a little extra height compared to your normal jump. But this was something I didn't know for years, but if you do like a little spin as you get close to the peak of your jump, not at the very top, but as you approach it, you can see compared to me not doing it, you get a little extra height that way, and so you can kind of use that to your advantage to clear those gaps back there, those pits with the rodents or whatever that come out. And the original version, okay, I messed that one up. And the original version on the PS1, it was much easier too. You could actually kind of like hang onto the background elements here and kind of get around that way. But they, I guess, improved the the invisible wall or whatever to make it to where you can't do that so easily. There we go. We got our first gem. You get to the end of the level, and if you manage to break open all of the boxes, then you get a gem there. And if you collect all the gems, then that's how you 100% the game and everything. And then we've also picked up that purple crystal there. There's one of those in every level, and it's mandatory that you pick those up. Crash does his iconic little dance here, which I would replicate on camera, but I can't really do that because of the way I've got this set up. I'm on my bed. I've got my laptop here in front of me on the bed. But yeah, there's Dr. Cortex, our buddy, quote unquote, again, who he's the villain of the first game, and in this one he kind of tricks you into thinking that he needs you to gather all the crystals for him to somehow like save the world from this threat. Spoiler alert, plot twist, Cortex is still the bad guy. No big surprise there. But yeah, we'll just skip whatever he's saying here. I can't really hear it, to be honest, where I've got the audio turned out so that it doesn't pick up on my mic here. But we're going to go back into Turtle Woods real quick, actually, because you can see there on the left there's another gem we still need to get, which is the blue gem. And to get that one, this is kind of obscure. I don't know how you would know to do this back in the day without a guide, although in the remake on the loading screen they've got helpful little hints that will tell you that. But you actually have to beat it without breaking a single box in order to get the blue gem. Again, I don't know how you would figure that out as a kid if you didn't have a guide, because obviously when this game came out, you might have had the internet, but not in very many households. I don't know if this game came out in '97 or '98, somewhere around there. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where if you wanted to 100% it, they kind of wanted to force you to buy the strategy guide back in the day. But yeah, we'll get through it here without breaking any of the boxes. This part's a little tricky. You got to bounce on this one right here because it's the only one you can bounce on multiple times without it breaking. In the original Crash Bandicoot games on the PS1, you had to bounce on them 10 times to break them, or you could just get it with just a simple spin jump or just a spin move and be done with it. But then you don't get any of the Wumpa fruit that come out. You get 100 of the Wumpa fruit and you get an extra life, kind of like the coins in Mario. But anyway. But yeah, you would have to bounce on it 10 times to break those boxes in the original. They changed it to 5, which is a really nice improvement that makes the whole thing a lot less tedious. And there we go. There's our blue gem. So we've got the first level down, everything collected that needs to be collected, and we'll hop right into the second one. And yeah, I don't know if I'm going to go for 100% or not. It might be like the Mario 64 playthrough, if you watch that one, where I initially was talking about collecting all 120 stars in that game, but then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to beat it, and okay, I'll be quiet for real quick. This is Dr. N-Gin. Well, I won't be quiet, I'll still talk, but I'll explain his deal, and then I'll go back to what I was saying before. No, this isn't N-Gin, sorry, this is Dr. N-Brio is this guy's name. I don't know why they named him after a fetus, but all the villains have some kind of like N pun in their name. There's another one who's N-Gin, who's got this big torpedo in his head. But this guy, he was Cortex's, I guess, co-partner. I don't know if you'd call him his underling. They were kind of, I guess, more or less in equal stature in the previous game. Working together on experiments and stuff. And he's voiced by somebody different in this remake too. He's voiced, what is the guy's name? Hopefully it'll come back to me in a bit, but he does the voice of Brain on Pinky and the Brain, and he does Father on Codename Kids Next Door, if you ever watched that show, and probably a bunch of other accolades that I'm not thinking of right now, but those are a couple of the main ones that I know him from myself. We'll hop into this snow level here, but yeah, he's a really prolific voice actor. Really good stuff. He did a lot of stuff in the 90s, especially. Still does voiceover work to this day. But yeah, he's definitely one of the bigger names out there. And I wish it would come to me. Like, I remembered Dr. Cortex as Clancy Brown, voice of Mr. Krabs. But yeah, I cannot think right off what the name of this other guy is who does Dr. N-Brio. Be careful here. This thing will come down and crush you when you get close. Kind of like the Thwomp enemies from Mario. Kill this seal guy. I started to call him a walrus, but he doesn't have a tusk, so I don't know what other differences there are between a seal and a walrus. I think seals, I guess, are quite a bit smaller, but I know the tusk thing is definitely another one. So let me know in the comments some walrus facts, because I don't know that much else about what distinguishes the two of them apart. You might have noticed there was a red gem back there. We can't get that yet. Some levels you can't get everything in the first go. You have to come back like at a later time after doing something else in another level. So yeah, we won't be able to get that probably in this episode. That'll have to be another episode. in this little bonus area. These are kind of nice because if you die in them, like I just did there, it doesn't actually count as losing a life. I didn't do that on purpose, actually. I was going to explain that, but then it just kind of so happened that I did die there at that same time. But we do lose our little mask guy there, who lets us take extra hits. Aku Aku is his name, and he's voiced by the guy who does, or at least in the remake anyway. He didn't voice him in the original games, but nowadays it's voiced by the guy who does Grimm of the Grimm Adventures of Billy and Mandy. You know, a lot of his voices are kind of this Jamaican voice. I'm trying to think of what some of his other roles are, and his name I just don't know. I would know it if I see it, but I'm not forgetting his name like the Pinky and the Brain guy. I'm just not sure if I know this guy's name. But yeah, I know what other roles he does. I just don't know his actual name. But yeah, a lot of pretty prolific voice cast just all around in the Crash Bandicoot games. I love the way this looks here, the reflection off this ice that you can see beneath Crash, and then just this just the way the texture work and the lighting and everything looks on these this frozen crystal wall above Crash and everything. But yeah, Vicarious Visions is the development team who handled this remake, and they did a phenomenal job on it. They're unfortunately now defunct because Activision shut them down, because Activision has a lot of terrible business practices, which you probably don't need me to tell you that if you've seen anything at all about the whole debacle that happened a couple of years ago now. I don't know if it was 2020, 2021 when all that stuff came to light, which I won't go into all that here, because I kind of want to keep this channel relatively lighthearted, but you can look it up for yourself. It's almost cartoonishly evil, just the kind of stuff that was going on at Activision. Like, it's really it's a serious thing, but it's almost comically absurd just how bad the stuff was at Activision. Not to make light of it or anything, but it's just like, wow, you just read more and more, and it's just like, it's kind of unreal that they did all that. But they're in better management now, I hope, because they were recently acquired by Microsoft, which is so crazy to think about. That Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, which were two of the mascots of PlayStation, and now they just belong to Xbox now. It's just kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, Microsoft, they seem to be among the more ethical gaming companies. I feel like they value their employees as well as the consumers better than a lot of other corporations out there. Although I saw where they had some layoffs and stuff not too long after the acquisition, which is disappointing to see. So I don't know. I'm hoping that Crash Bandicoot and Spyro will be in good hands. I don't know if such a thing's possible, but I think it would be awesome if some way they could revive the Vicarious Visions team that made this remake, because they did wonderful work. There was a news story that came out a while ago about how they were actually working with Nintendo back in maybe 2016-ish, somewhere around there, on a canceled open world 3D Donkey Kong game, but that project got shut down by Activision. I'm sure it would have been great though, because again, Vicarious Visions, they're such a talented development team, and so it's such a shame that their doors were closed down. So I don't know if it's at all possible to some way get the band back together, and Microsoft can somehow reopen that team. That would be awesome. But I don't know, a lot of the developers might have moved on to another company now and are happy where they're at, maybe wouldn't want to come back. But I don't know. But yeah, it's just so much wasted potential there, I feel like. But yeah, I mean, this remake, I think they did a perfect job with it. As somebody who grew up with the game, and I don't often say that. A lot of times you'll have some nitpicks here and there where it's like, yeah, they could have done this a little better, or this isn't as good. Sometimes, you know, our nostalgia gets in the way of like, you know, this was better back in the day on the PS1 or whatever. But no, with this game, I really do feel like they did everything right with the remake. I think this is the definitive way to play the original 3 Crash Bandicoot games, and I say that as somebody who, you know, had been growing up playing the originals since I was like, I don't know, maybe 5 years old or something. But yeah, they did such a great job with it. I love the water effects here, like underneath Crash, just the ripples and everything that you see in the water. You know, recently, well, it's been a few years now, but Activision, they came out with a Crash Bandicoot 4, quote unquote. The name of the game is Crash 4, but you know, there were obviously more games that came out between 3 and 4 when it was owned by different studios. But yeah, Crash 4, it was a really good game. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say that I like it as much as Crash 2 here. One of the reasons behind that, I don't like the graphical change. You know, it's a newer game, so you would think the graphics should look better. But to me, this right here is peak Crash Bandicoot graphics. You know, they go kind of for a lot of realistic textures, but like it still looks very cartoony. I don't know, they just do a lot of fine texture work and detailing to just make it look just so much more gorgeous. But then in Crash 4, they kind of go for a more, I don't know if I want to say more cartoony, because like I feel like this already still looks pretty cartoony, but I don't know, it doesn't have as much like detailed textures, and it kind of looks, I hate to say this, but I feel like a lot of more modern games kind of borrow a little too much from Fortnite. So like we'll skip whatever Cortex is saying here, and we'll also go back in this level and play this one again, because there's another gem we can get for beating it within a time limit. It's kind of impossible to get that and break all the boxes at the same time, so we'll do a second playthrough of this level here real quick and try to beat the time. Not that clock, they added like some time trials you can get by grabbing that. But if we just walk up ahead here, close to the first checkpoint, a timer should appear on the screen. I'm not going to get the checkpoint though, we're going to skip that, because if we die, that way we'll be able to start the challenge over without being kind of locked out of it. Yeah, there's our timer, we got 1 minute, so we'll just quickly speed through this while I'm talking here. And I've lost my train. Oh, well. See, that's why I didn't grab the checkpoint. So it's our first death on our first episode here. So already not off to as good of a start as the Mario 64 playthrough, which I don't believe I died a single time in that one. But yeah, we've already got one death so far. I would say, and that is something that I do like about Crash 2 compared to Mario 64, is that it is more challenging. You know, I like, you know, what the game lacks in being open world and whatever, and giving you the freedom to do whatever you want. It kind of makes up for that in not being quite as easy of a game. It's not punishingly difficult like the first Crash game, which in a lot of respects I feel like is borderline unfair. Like, you got to be like pixel perfect on a lot of those jumps. But this one is just a lot more balance. It's a lot more of a healthy difficulty curve, I would say. But yeah, I once again lost my train of thought about what I was saying right before, which maybe will come back to me in a second here. I don't know if this game's just requiring a lot more of my focus compared to the Mario 64 playthrough. But yeah, I'm having a harder time commentating and playing this one at the same time. Excuse me, but I'm sure whatever I was about to say will come back to me, or it won't. I don't know why I said I'm sure, because I'm really not sure at all that it'll come back to me. But yeah, we'll hop into the next level here, the pits. This one's a little bit annoying. There's a handful of levels in this game where they do this thing where you have like a branching path, and you know, it's like you can pick, you want to go to the left path or you want to go the right path. And the reason it's annoying is because you know, there'll be boxes on both paths, so you have to end up going down both of them anyways, in order to you know, if you're trying to collect everything. And when you're coming backward, as you'll see later, the camera doesn't really point very far ahead of you where you can see what's in front of you that's coming. So it's just really easy to get killed on those return trips when you're coming back toward the camera. Probably won't be as bad, hopefully, on this this first go through, but especially later on. Let me kill this guy. I'll come back the same route. Yeah, there we had our fork in the road. So I'll take the left path here, kill all the enemies along the way to make it at least a little bit easier when we come back, and then I'll go back down it the other way. It's probably the easiest approach here. And I guess we'll get the checkpoint. Sometimes like that can be a little bit annoying if you get the checkpoint, but then you die on the way back, and then all the enemies respawn and stuff. But I think we should be all right here. Got hit by that bird. Let me, so I think that guy, I didn't kill that other one, so I think he'll respawn. Let me see if I can get him to come back real quick. Yeah, there he is. Come here. All right, we've killed that guy. We've grabbed our gem here. Okay, we'll get this one. So we've got our spin ability. Then we've also got our slide. This guy can be defeated with either or. The slide ability is a really great ability that they added to this game that was not in the first Crash Bandicoot. Okay, so now let me go back this way and hopefully not fall in a hole and die because I can't see very far ahead of me. I feel like they could have fixed that. Maybe some way, like pull the camera back a little bit further when you're walking toward the camera. But I don't know. Like, see that? Like these holes just kind of sneak up on you. That's where if I hadn't killed the enemies, it would have made this just all the more difficult going backwards. But yeah, I think we're almost back to where that original fork in the road was, and then we'll take the right side this time. But yeah, I was talking about. Okay, forgot about that one. See, again, you don't have a very wide field of vision, and see that makes it kind of obnoxious because now I'm going to have to go back forward this way, and then once I go back, some of those enemies are going to respawn. So yeah, I don't know. I just wish you could see a little bit further back and not have to, because I'm just going to have to kind of take baby steps, I guess, to where I can't really predict exactly where the holes are. You'd think I would know as many times as I've played this game, but yeah. So let's take our time here, not get in too big of a rush. But what I was saying is about. You know, Crash, all he could really do in the original game was spin and jump, and that's part of the reason I feel like the first game was a little bit, little on the mediocre side. Like, he didn't have a very versatile moveset, and so it made Crash just not very fun to control. He was kind of stiff when all you can do is this. And, like, you can see how far Crash can jump. Like, that's it. So it can make clearing gaps in the original game a lot more difficult. You had to be almost, like, pixel perfect with them. But the slide ability really adds a lot of depth and intricacy, if I can get my words right, to the gameplay. So Crash can, so he can slide, and you can do the jump, and you can do a lot more. It's almost like Mario's long jump from Super Mario 64, or what might even be a more accurate comparison is if you've played Donkey Kong Country, like on the Super Nintendo, because I feel like the Crash games take a lot of inspiration from Donkey Kong Country, not even just with the gameplay, but also just thematically. You know, the Donkey Kong Country games, you've got these, you know, creatures that are taking over this, like Donkey Kong's island home. You know, the Crash Bandicoot games, they take place on an island, which is like a lot of wildlife. But these creatures are coming in, and they're kind of messing up the environment. You know, as you get to the later levels of Donkey Kong Country, things get more and more industrial. You know, where they've just got machinery and like oil factories and stuff everywhere, polluting the environment. And it's kind of the same thing with this game as well. And I guess Sonic the Hedgehog also kind of does that. So Crash doesn't necessarily bring a whole lot of new ideas to the table. Even like Crash Team Racing, which is a really, really fun racing game. It's kind of just a Mario Kart clone, you know. It is what it is, but I don't really see that as a bad thing. I think, you know, if you can take inspiration, like if the wheel ain't broke, don't fix it. I think I just mixed two expressions there. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And you don't always have to reinvent the wheel, but I just combined those two into if the wheel ain't broke. But yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, Mario Kart is a great game. The Mario platformers are great games. Then you've got Crash that maybe doesn't do a lot different, but it can do it just as good, And I think there's something to be said about that. I think it takes talent to be able to do that. Nintendo has always been kind of a trendsetter, a pioneer of new gameplay styles. But Crash has always just kind of done what other companies have already done, but he does it really well, And I feel like that sounds like I'm kind of taking it's kind of a backhanded compliment, but it's really not. I really do appreciate the Crash games for doing that, for not necessarily trying to do something groundbreaking that's like never been done, but just taking a look at what other games have done and just saying, hey, we can do that too, and we can do it just as good. Hopefully I can clear this. Okay, I wasn't sure there. That got a little dicey. You kind of got to save those there and not let them break, so you've got some on the way back, because you had to hit the switch to fill in the invisible blocks and go back and get those. But yeah, so thematically, Crash Bandicoot I think borrows a lot from Donkey Kong Country, as well as Sonic the Hedgehog. I would say especially Donkey Kong Country. But not just thematically, but also with his moveset, where they added that slide move. It's a lot like Donkey Kong's roll in that game, because you could roll into enemies, which could kill them the same way that Crash can with a slide. It adds momentum to where if you slide, jump, you can go a lot faster. Like if you do Donkey Kong's roll, jump, string those together. And you can also slide off a cliff, and for a second or two, there's a couple frames where I don't know how well you can see this, because again, the camera doesn't let you see that far back behind you, but you can kind of jump in midair, like while you're over a gap, so you don't just immediately fall to your death as soon as you're over a pit, which again, that's very like Donkey Kong Country, where you can kind of roll and be over a cliff, but then as you're falling, you can still jump. In this game, you kind of have to be at the same height. Like if you start descending, then you can't jump after that. So it's a little bit more challenging than in Donkey Kong, but it's a really good mechanic that I think adds a lot to the game, and it's interesting to have that in a 3D space as opposed to Donkey Kong, where it's just relegated to 2D. So that's another level in the books. Making pretty good progress. We got one more level here, and then we will have our first boss. And that might be where we call this first episode. I've already been going for 32 minutes, so this might be a little bit longer than I was anticipating. Because I know for my Mario 64 playthrough, each of those episodes I kept to around 30 minutes. Let me go ahead and make a manual save here real quick, just to be safe. So that's why they call it saving, just to be safe. I don't know. But anyway, Crash Dash. So these are some of the more iconic Crash Bandicoot levels. These are the boulder levels. The boulder! Avatar reference if anybody watches Avatar: The Last Airbender. But yeah, so these are very Indiana Jones-esque, where you are running toward the camera, trying not to get crushed. I think they actually put the boulder level, the first one from the first game, which I think is literally just called Boulders, I think is the name of the level, in one of the Uncharted games. I think maybe the most recent Uncharted, because where they had the same developer, Naughty Dog. I've never actually played the Uncharted games, like the Nathan Drake or whatever. I'm like vaguely familiar with them, but not that much. That might be something I probably should get around to doing someday. Something I was talking about in my Mario 64 playthrough is that, I only just got a PS5, well, it's been about a year and a half ago, but it's my first time actually owning a PlayStation system. I grew up with Crash on the PS1 because my brother had a PlayStation, and it was a PS2, which, the PS2 was backwards compatible with PS1 games. So I grew up playing all the classic Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Jak and Daxter, games like that. But, there's a big catalog, just a huge library of PlayStation games that I missed out on. That I would like to go back and play. Like I never played Uncharted, like I said. I've never played Shadow of the Colossus, which I've heard really good things about. I feel like that would be a game that would be pretty interesting to me. I don't know much about it other than obviously you have to scale these colossi. I don't know what the plural for colossus is, but yeah, you're just scaling these large, creatures or whatever. Kind of look more maybe almost like native stone. I don't know. My knowledge is very limited, and I saw a couple screenshots where it looked like maybe you were riding horseback or something. I don't know if you get like a bow and arrow, but it almost kind of reminded me a little bit of Zelda, but I could be way off base about that. I don't know. But yeah, I would like to, neck's getting a little stiff here, would like to check those out, one of these days. But yeah, I never played Sly Cooper back in the day. That was something I always really wanted to play. Same with like Ratchet and Clank, and I have since played through all of the Sly Cooper games, all 4 of them. Really enjoyed those, especially Sly 2. Was definitely my favorite. Probably my next favorite was Sly 4. Oh, we're about to get crushed. Okay, I think we're good. I think that counts, yeah. So in the original version, if the boulder breaks those boxes, they do not count toward your total. So I would have had to have restarted the whole level there because it seals me in here, so I can't go back. I can't like die on purpose and go back to the last save point. So if I wanted to get the gem, I would just have to start the whole thing over. But they did fix that, and I think that is a good fix. I guess it kind of makes the game a little bit easier, but it saves a lot of frustration of just having to get like every last box manually without just letting that thing break some of them for you. So I think that's another good change, and I appreciate them doing that. Crash does his little dance again, which again I can't do in full because I'm kind of stuck sitting down here. So now we're on to our boss fight, Ripperoo, and yeah, this is the first boss of the game. He was also, I want to say, maybe the second boss in the original Crash Bandicoot. But yeah, so he returns here. They bring back a couple of the old bosses, and yeah, this is a pretty classic boss fight. He takes damage. This is so interesting to me. So whenever you hit him, he has the, well, actually they changed it in the remake, so he doesn't sound quite that way anymore, which is really disappointing. I don't know if it's a copyright thing, but it's such an iconic sound effect when he takes damage, where he's like, bah, yeah! I can't do it exactly how he does it, but that's very ingrained in my my memory from the original game. But that sound that he makes is apparently, they took the there's a hyena that makes that laugh in. I want to say it's, I don't want to get my Disney movies mixed up here. I think it's The Lady and the Tramp. I always get that mixed up with The Fox and the Hound, but I think it's Lady and the Tramp. There's a hyena that makes that laugh. And they took that exact sound bite and they sped it up and made it faster, and that was Ripperoo's laugh that he does. But it gets even weirder, because that same sped up version that was used from Crash, which originally came from Lady and the Tramp, can also be heard in Elf, the Buddy the elf, the Christmas comedy movie with Will Ferrell. Is that who plays Buddy? I think. Yeah, I think it's Will Ferrell. I always get Will Ferrell and Steve Carell mixed up. I don't know why. Steve Carell, is he the Office guy? I think. I don't know. But anyway, so we beat the boss there. But yeah, it's so weird to me. The sound effect from a Disney movie was remixed into a Crash Bandicoot game, and then that exact remix was later used in Elf. So I don't know what the legality of that is, what the copyright is. I guess that's why they didn't bring it back for the remake. But yeah, we're on to the second world here. Before I quit, I talked in the Mario video. Oh, okay, Cortex is going to say something to us. We're gonna skip it here. We were talking about animal abuse and PETA, and them not liking Mario because he abuses animals. Crash is worse. I might have given PETA a hard time in the Mario video. I don't know if I can excuse Crash's actions here. So So you got this cute little polar bear here. We gotta jump on his head. I'm sure this causes this poor innocent creature some excruciating pain. He's probably gonna have, like, I don't know, some kind of spinal issues. Now he's gonna have to see like a chiropractor. But you keep hopping on him, you get a bunch of one-ups. The game rewards you for abusing this cute little creature on God's green earth. It's sick, it's a shame, but it's also a lot of fun, and I don't regret doing it. All right, I think that's gonna call it for this one. That's becoming a running gag in these playthroughs of just harming baby polar animals, Arctic animals. In the first one, we had the Mario 64 penguin that we checked off the cliff. Everybody does that. Don't lie, you did it. And then now with the polar bear here and trampling him. I'm not a sadistic monster, I promise. But anyway, I guess we're going to call it a wrap here for this first episode. So thank you very much, guys, for tuning in to part 1. Crash is doing his little dance again where I left him idle. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you will come back for part 2. Let me know what you guys want to see me play in the future. I think once I finish this, my next one probably going to be Spyro the Dragon, because you can't have Crash without Spyro. So yeah, I think that's the next series I will start after Crash Bandicoot. But yeah, thanks so much, guys, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.